We are getting rained out. We are actually wrapping up the site now because this rain is just making it very difficult to move around, get work done, and be productive. So we are calling it quits for the day. We gave it a good shot. We tried to set a couple rocks, but the rain is proving to be too much of a challenge. So we are gonna have to let it do its thing because I don't want to work in this. I know Bully doesn't, right? Neither does Brennan.
No. Not at all.
So we are actually about to get out of here. We wrapped up the site. We laid down our underlayment all the way over there up against that whole hill. So hopefully come tomorrow morning, we have preserved as much dry dirt as possible, because if that dirt is wet, it is going to make the job a ton more difficult because we will be trudging around in wet, sludgy dirt, and that's no fun. It makes your boots super heavy, and it makes you just want to sit down and not work. Right, Bully? You don't want to work like that. What's up, guys? We're on day 5, 1, 2. So 8. We're on day 8 of this pond build. So yesterday we actually did get rained out. We left somewhere a little after lunch, and we got a little bit of work done behind, in front of Boulevard. We set a few stones. We set this one and those two right there. We are trying to work our way out of this pond, finish this section of waterfalls to then get into the wetland, dig the snorkel and centipede in, dig back out of the wetland, and continue pushing backwards because we will be putting more waterfalls behind the wetland, which I think is super cool. So it's gonna be super nice to have a little wetland area, another large pool in between sections of waterfalls to then come into the pond.
We got some water going in the pond, which usually means we're pretty close to finishing. That's not what's happening right now. We are getting this wetland filter going though. Our waterfall is pretty much framed out coming out of the wetland filter. Right now, Anthony and the guys are just getting everything prepped so that we can start building our wetland. We've done our excavation. We've got our center trough for where our centipede module and the snorkel. What's gonna happen there is we're pumping down into the end of this centipede. The water flows into that chamber and there's all slots in there. It flows up through and then it hits a layer of aqua blocks, which slows down the velocity, gives us some time in there for the filtration. That's where all that beneficial bacteria is gonna be. And then you got the layers of rock and gravel coming up to the top of it before it goes and spills over the weir down into the pond. And then once we get that gravel layer in, we can start dropping some boulders around the top to make it look like a deep stream. That's gonna give us our cool shape coming through here with the crossover. And then behind that is where that final bunch of cascades is gonna be starting up around there, probably 2 or 3 drops into the wetland, flows through and then down into the pond. This whole water feature is gonna be so awesome when it's finished. Stick around. So we were intending to use the existing wood bridge to cross over that pool area, but taking a look at it, it is pretty well rotten. There's a lot of rot going down through these posts, and to put it back in place, just to remove it in a couple of years, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So our plan is to take some of these large flat slabs, and we're gonna make a crossing going from one side of this path through the wetland over to the other side where there's an existing walkway. That means we're gonna set a couple right on the edge, probably one out in the middle and then another on this side. So you're gonna be stepping down across it onto another one and then over to where it continues through the walkway. And looking at the way this is turning out, I think that's gonna be a much more natural looking, cohesive look. The bridge was cool, but it's had its time in the sun here. It's time to go. We're gonna replace it with those cool steppers and keep this thing rocking. Right now, Bolivar and Brendan are working and doing a seam from our wetland liner up to our final waterfall streamliner. Once that's in, then we can set those rocks, finish shaping out the wetland, and start this top waterfall.
All right, guys, we are on day 11 of this build. Today is the day we are gonna get this thing 100% mulched, landscaped with all of our aquatic plants and some lilies that were already here existing in the old concrete pond we're gonna put back. But let me show you guys what we still have to accomplish for today before we can even think about getting to the plants and mulching. So we spent most of yesterday rocking in a lot of this wetland and doing a lot of touch-up work like the mossing, our edges, and some more of our spillways. It took a good bit of yesterday to get a lot of that miscellaneous little stuff done, and then we also got this wetland pretty much done with the exception of the waterfall behind it. So we got in all of our stepper stones. If you guys remember, when we first got here, there was a bridge that stretched from here to there, and if you guys saw it, it was rickety, it was falling apart. You could see it rotting from the inside out, and it wasn't gonna last much longer. So it was almost silly to put the bridge back into the spot for it to be removed in a few years. So we put in 3 very nice stone steps that go through the wetland, and it adds the sense of interaction into this pond already more than we're trying to give it with this tight edge that you could just reach over. This is gonna be super cool. This is gonna be so interactive, and I love putting steps through the wetlands because that sense of interaction and being able to actually walk up through the whole stream like you would in nature, it is so cool. So I love doing this. This is our main task for the day. We have to finish the waterfall. There's gonna be another drop right in there, and then one more, and then we are actually using a 12-inch spillway as our water diffuser coming from our plumbing, which you can see right there at the end of it. So we're gonna hook that into a spillway. We're gonna hide it, disguise it, and then we still have to disguise our centipede cover because we do still have to drain out and rinse all this gravel. If you could see, it is still a little dirty, and we want this water to be as clear as possible for when we turn this thing on. So we are gonna take all the precaution we can in getting all the dirt off of all of our rocks and gravel, so that way we can have this pond running super clean for the customer.
It is go time. We have finished the pond. Everything is planted, lights are working, pumps are hooked up, wires are disguised. We've got our faux rock cover to put over the aerator. Everything is finished, all up in the wetland. Tons and tons of aquatic plants just to continue rooting into that gravel and acting as added filtration. Adding plants into your filter is super beneficial for that because they are thriving on all of the food that the algae is going to want to feed on. But if the plants are feeding on it first, there's less algae. This little walkway here, they had a wooden bridge, but instead we replaced it with these very cool steppers. So you just have a natural stride right across, and then it goes down, leads down to the other side of the pond. But this thing is going to be incredible.